I sat in the dim kitchen of our suburban Chicago home, the old wall clock ticking away like an accusation that wouldn't let up. Harold, my husband of 45 years, had just stumbled in from one of his so-called late business meetings. He looked worn out, but not in the usual way, more like he was carrying some heavy secret that haunted him. His jacket got tossed onto the sofa in a heap, his tie loosened like it was choking him, and he collapsed onto the bed without even bothering to shower. The familiar scent of his cologne lingered in the air, but it mixed with something new and intrusive, a sweet wild rose fragrance that didn't belong to any of the roses I grew in my flower shops. A few minutes later, his snoring started up, a sound that used to comfort me like a familiar lullaby. But now it just mocked me, like it was laughing at this foolish 65-year-old woman. I got up quietly, the habits of 45 years kicking in, and started tidying the living room mess he left behind. His jacket, his wallet, his phone. The phone screen was still lit with a new email glowing there. Harold never bothered with email much. He always said, "Eleanor, all this tech stuff is too complicated for me. I'd rather just pick up the phone and call." But there it was, an email, staring back at me like a ghost from some hidden life. Curiosity got the better of me, the kind that's morbid and unavoidable, so I opened it. The message was short, just a few words that hit me like a slap. "You were amazing tonight, Dad," followed by a red heart emoji. I froze right there, the word Dad echoing in my head like a bad dream. Who was calling him that? And in such an intimate way. I swiped down, my thumb shaking, hunting for more details. But there was nothing else, just a weird email address, a mess of random characters that gave no clues. A chill ran through me, deep and bone cold, like a draft slipping through a crack in the foundation of my life. I glanced toward the bedroom, where Harold rolled over with a snort, his face peaceful in sleep, a total contrast to the storm building inside me. My heart raced like I'd been caught doing something wrong. I quickly put the phone back, my hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped it. I kept tidying, my movements automatic now, like a robot going through the motions. I gathered his dirty clothes for the laundry, checking the pockets out of habit. That's when I felt a folded receipt, crisp and fresh. It was from a high-end hotel in downtown Chicago, dated that very night, for a party of two, including an expensive bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon, around $200, the same wine he got me for our 20th anniversary, a memory I'd cherished. I frowned hard. Downtown Chicago? He told me he was meeting partners in the suburbs. A bitter little laugh escaped me. Harold hated driving into the city centre, always complained about the traffic and parking. But downtown was where his old college buddies used to hang out, a place full of his fond memories from before we met. Who had he shared that dinner with while lying to me about the suburbs? The receipt showed entrees for two, steak and pasta, the kind of meal we hadn't had together in years, not since I expanded my first flower shop into a chain. I snapped a photo of it with my phone, along with the email, my hands still shaking. A woman's intuition, especially after 45 years of marriage, is something primal and undeniable. Something was wrong, and I had to uncover it. My trembling wasn't just from anger, but from a deep dread that felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, watching my whole life crumble away. I headed to the garage where Harold's old SUV sat, the engine still warm, the air thick with gasoline, and that same sweet rose scent from his clothes. I opened the door, a knot of fear twisting in my stomach. I turned on my phone's flashlight and searched the driver's seat. Nothing unusual, just some loose change and an empty water bottle. But as I reached into the glove compartment on the passenger side, my fingers brushed something slick and plastic. I pulled it out, and my heart nearly stopped. A half-used bottle of massage oil, the cap sticky with dried residue. Harold and I hadn't been intimate in years. He always blamed it on being tired, on age catching up. So what was this massage oil for? The question pounded in my mind, each word a hammer blow to my fragile world. I stood there in the dark garage, staring at it like it was a dirty secret come to life. I kept my head clear somehow, survival instinct taking over. I put it back exactly as he'd found it, wiped my hands raw on a napkin, as if the betrayal could stain my skin forever. I snapped photos of it all, the oil bottle, the receipt, even trying to capture that alien scent in an image. I closed the car door and went back inside, the weight of it all pressing down heavier than any delivery of flowers I'd ever handled. I sat at the kitchen table, picking up Harold's phone again, my hands unsteady. By now, I was almost sure he was cheating. I checked his messages, but they were just dry work chats. His inbox had only that one odd email. The sent and draft folders were empty, everything too clean, suspiciously spotless, like he'd wiped away every trace. My rage built like a slow fire, and something darker stirred inside me, a need for the truth, no matter how much it hurt. If you're listening to this story of mine, hit that like button if you've ever felt that gut punch of doubt in a long marriage, and subscribe for more real tales like this. Tell me in the comments, have you ever found something that shattered your trust? And where are you tuning in from? I want to know how far this revenge story travels. The next morning, as the sun rose and soft light filtered through the curtains, I was already awake, a shadow in my own home. The images of the massage oil, the hotel receipt, and that email swirled in my head like poison. I stood in the kitchen, hands busy, but mind in chaos. I made a simple breakfast, 2 fried eggs, toast, and strong black coffee for Harold. I'd barely slept. He came down looking rumpled, hair messy, eyes groggy. He sat, sipped his coffee, set it down, half full. "I have an important meeting today," he said huskily, not meeting my eyes. "He'll be home late for sure." He was so smooth with it, the lies rolling off his tongue like they were nothing. It chilled my blood. I nodded with a forced smile, though I wanted to scream, "Where is the meeting? With who? Downtown again?" But I held back, my anger a quiet flame, and just said, "Okay, be safe." He stood, patted my shoulder lightly, a gesture that felt empty, and left. The door clicked shut, leaving me in silence with my growing certainty. I cleared the table, washed dishes one by one, the routine anchoring me in the emotional storm. I couldn't just sit spinning theories. I needed hard truth. I grabbed my phone and found the number for my old friend Sarah, who'd helped me so much when I started the flower shops. She once mentioned a good private investigator for infidelity cases. "Eleanor, if you ever need him, I can give you David's number. He's discreet and good." I'd never thought I'd call, but now I had no choice. I dialed, voice shaky, each ring building my anxiety. "Hello, Sarah. Can you connect me with David? I need his help." She paused, then said, "Eleanor, what's going on? Is Harold involved in something?" I sighed, not wanting to spill over the phone. "I just need the truth. Can you help?" Sarah, always intuitive, agreed right away. And an hour later I got a text from David. "Mrs. Thompson, don't worry, I'll assist you. Let's meet at noon at a downtown cafe." At noon, I went to the small cafe with worn wooden tables and the rich smell of roasted coffee. I picked a quiet corner, out of sight. David arrived, a stocky, middle-aged man in a plain blue shirt, with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. I handed him a USB with the photos I'd taken, the odd email, the hotel receipt, the massage oil bottle. "This is all I have," I said, voice trembling. I'm not sure, but I think my husband is cheating. The words tasted bitter. David nodded, scrolling through the images on his phone, face neutral as he jotted notes. Mrs. Thompson, I get it. I'll start tailing Mr. Thompson this afternoon. Stay calm. I'll update you soon. I left the cafe, weaving through the crowd, feeling lonelier than ever. 45 years of marriage, trusting Harold completely. He was my rock, the family man who'd stand by me through anything. Now, here I was, hiring a detective. The irony stung like thorns from my own roses. The morning after, sunlight filtered through the curtains in our Chicago home, but my heart stayed dark and heavy as the night before. I got up early, moving through the kitchen like I'd done for decades, frying 2 eggs until they were golden, toasting bread to that perfect crispness, and brewing a pot of strong black coffee, just how Harold liked it. He came downstairs looking disheveled, hair all over the place, eyes still half shut from sleep. He plopped down at the table without so much as a glance my way, grabbed his mug, took a sip, and set it back half empty. Got an important meeting today, he muttered in that gravelly voice, staring at nothing in particular. Might be home late again. His words hung in the air like a routine I'd heard too many times, but now they cut deeper, stirring up the storm inside me. I nodded with a tight smile that hid the ache in my chest, though my mind raced back to that hotel receipt and the sticky massage oil bottle. Part of me wanted to slam my fists on the table and demand answers, to yell about who he was really seeing and why he kept slipping away. But I swallowed it down, the weight of my 65 years making me feel fragile, like a wilted flower drooping in a vase, while the rest of the garden thrived. Once Harold grabbed his keys and headed out the door, the house fell silent, amplifying the doubts swirling in my head. I drove to my main flower shop in downtown Chicago, the one I'd built from scratch with sweat and long hours, turning it into a chain of 5 stores worth about $1.2 million over the years. The familiar scents of lilies and roses usually wrapped around me like a comforting blanket, easing any stress from the day. But today, they just twisted the knife, reminding me of that foreign wild rose perfume clinging to his clothes, a scent that didn't come from any of my arrangements. I couldn't shake it off, so I pulled out my phone and scrolled for Sarah's number, my old friend who'd been there from the start, helping me navigate the early days of the business 30 years ago. When she picked up, her voice came through warm but concerned. "Eleanor, what's up? You sound off." I took a breath, my voice shaky as I got straight to it. "I need the number for that private investigator you mentioned once, the one who handles infidelity cases. I think Harold is stepping out on me." There was a pause on her end, heavy with unspoken sympathy, before she replied. "Oh, honey, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've got David's contact. He's good, real discreet. I'll text it to you right now." An hour later, her message came through with his details, and I set up a meeting at a little cafe near the shop, the kind with scuffed wooden tables and the strong aroma of fresh brews that normally perked me up. I arrived early, nerves jangling, and when David walked in, he was just as Sarah described, a solid, middle-aged guy in a simple blue shirt, with eyes that took in everything without giving much away. I slid the USB across the table, loaded with the photos of the receipt, that strange email, and the massage oil bottle. "Here's what I've got so far," I said, my voice cracking as tears welled up. "I'm pretty sure my husband is cheating, but I need proof." He nodded calmly, plugging the drive into his phone to scan the files, jotting quick notes in a small pad. "Mrs. Thompson, I understand how tough this is. I'll get on Mr. Thompson's trail this afternoon. Hang tight. I'll keep you posted as soon as I have something solid." I left the cafe feeling a mix of dread and fragile hope, weaving through the bustling downtown crowd like a ghost. That evening, Back at the shop, arranging bouquets for a big hotel order, my phone buzzed with a message from David. Attachments popped up, a series of photos that made my stomach drop. There was Harold, stepping into a fancy restaurant downtown, hand in hand with a younger woman. I zoomed in on her face, and the world tilted. It was Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, 40 years old, dressed in a tight black dress, makeup heavy and bold, hair cascading down her back. They didn't look like family at all, more like lovers lost in each other, the way he leaned in close as they walked. The pain hit like lightning, sharp and blinding. Vanessa, the woman I'd treated like my own daughter, teaching her how to arrange flowers for her wedding to my son Michael, sharing family recipes over holidays. At gatherings, she'd always kept her distance from Harold, barely exchanging words, sometimes even shooting him a look of mild annoyance. Michael would tease about it, saying she just didn't click with Dad. I'd bought into it all, thinking it was normal adjustment. But now, seeing this, it clicked into place as a calculated act, a performance to keep me blind. How long had this been going on right under my nose, in my own family? The betrayal burned deeper than anything I'd imagined, leaving me staring at the screen, the vibrant colors of the flowers around me suddenly dull and lifeless. I slumped into the chair behind the counter of my flower shop, the scent of roses and lilies now bitter in my nose. My hands shook as I gripped the phone, staring at the photos David sent. Harold, my husband of 45 years, walking hand in hand with Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, into a swanky downtown Chicago restaurant. The images burned into my eyes, her tight black dress, his easy smile, the way they leaned into each other like lovers, not family. My heart pounded, a mix of shock and rage building like a storm ready to break. I swiped to the next photo, and it got worse. They sat in a candle-lit corner, Vanessa's face glowing as she tilted toward him, Harold raising a glass with a look I hadn't seen in decades, soft and adoring, the kind he used to save for me when we were young and dreaming big in San Diego. Then came the video. I pressed play, my fingers trembling so bad I nearly dropped the phone. Vanessa leaned close, whispering something in Harold's ear, and he let out a loud, unfamiliar laugh, one I hadn't heard in years. She giggled, her eyes sparkling under the restaurant's dim lights, and he reached across to brush her hand. My stomach twisted as I watched him open the car door for her, like some gallant suitor, not a father-in-law. I played it again, then again, each loop a fresh stab to my chest. Vanessa, the woman I'd welcomed like a daughter, teaching her to arrange bouquets for her wedding to my son Michael. Harold, the man I'd built a life with, raising our boy, pouring my soul into a flower shop chain now worth $1.2 million. How could they do this? Betray me and Michael in such a vile, secret dance? The rage boiled over, drowning out the pain that had kept me up all night. I wasn't just some fragile 65-year-old to be pitied. I was Eleanor Thompson, who'd turned a single storefront into a thriving business through grit and sleepless nights. I saved every photo, every frame of that video, into a USB, noting the date, time, and place, LeBlanc Restaurant, downtown Chicago. My hands moved with purpose now, fueled by a fire I hadn't felt in years. I texted David, my words sharp and clear. "Keep following them. I need everything you can get." He replied instantly. "On it, Mrs. Thompson. More soon." The rest of the day dragged, every minute heavy with anticipation. I arranged bouquets for a hotel order, my hands moving on autopilot while my mind churned. I kept seeing Vanessa's smile, Harold's laugh, the way they mocked everything I'd believed in. By evening, another message from David hit my phone, and my heart lurched. More photos. Harold and Vanessa stepping out of a sleek office building, her arm looped through his, both dressed sharp like they were sealing some big deal. Another image showed them entering the Grand Lux, a four-star hotel just blocks away, his hand low on her back, guiding her inside with a familiarity that made my skin crawl. Then the video came, time-stamped late afternoon. I slipped on my earbuds, hiding in the back room of the shop to watch. They stood on a third-floor balcony at the Grand Lux, Harold's arm around Vanessa's waist, her head resting on his shoulder, hair swaying in the breeze. Then, like a punch to the gut, they shared a quick kiss, bold and unhidden. My breath caught, and I replayed it, frame by frame, each second carving deeper into my soul. David's message followed. They rented a room for the afternoon. Looks like they're staying a while. I'll keep eyes on them. I sat there, clutching the edge of the counter, the world blurring around me. Harold had texted me that morning, casual as ever. Out with partners in the suburbs, Eleanor. Get some rest. Lies, all lies. He wasn't in the suburbs. He was here, in a ritzy hotel with our daughter-in-law, living a life I didn't know existed. The betrayal wasn't just personal anymore. It was a calculated destruction of everything I'd held dear. I saved the new files to the USB, my hands steady now, driven by a resolve that felt like steel. This wasn't just about catching them. I needed to know how far this went, and I'd make sure they paid for every second of their deceit. I sat in the back room of my flower shop, surrounded by the sweet scent of roses and lilies, but it felt like I was choking on ash. The images from David, the private investigator, burned in my mind. Harold and Vanessa locked in their secret world at LeBlanc Restaurant and the Grand Lux Hotel. Their touches and stolen kisses a betrayal that cut deeper with every glance at my phone. My hands shook, not from fear anymore, but from a rage so fierce it felt like it could set the whole shop on fire. At 65, after 45 years of marriage, I thought I knew pain. But this was something else, a raw, searing wound that demanded answers. Late that night, my phone buzzed with a call from David, his voice low and urgent. "Mrs. Thompson, I got audio from the hotel parking lot. Used special equipment. They didn't notice a thing. Sending it now." I slipped on my earbuds, heart pounding like a drum in my chest, and hit play. Vanessa's voice came through, cold and sharp as a blade. "Come on, Dad. Get those fake contracts moving. I want that flower shop chain, that $1.2 million empire, and we're selling her special rose formula to Petals & Co. That'll crush her business for good." Harold's chuckle was low, smug. "Relax, Eleanor's clueless. She trusts me too much. I'll handle the paperwork." My breath caught, a sickening twist in my gut. This wasn't just an affair. They were plotting to steal everything I'd built over decades, my 5 flower shops, my life's work, and even the secret formula I'd perfected to keep roses fresh longer, the edge that made my chain stand out. Vanessa's voice dripped venom as she called me that old fool, a name that stung worse than any slap. I'd treated her like my own daughter, taught her how to arrange bouquets, welcomed her into our family with open arms. Now she was scheming to ruin me. I replayed the audio, each word fueling the fire in my chest. My hands steadied as I saved it to the USB, noting the exact time and place, Grand Lux parking lot, 9:47 p.m. Another message from David popped up. Photos this time. Harold and Vanessa in his SUV, hunched over a stack of papers, her red pen slashing across pages while he nodded, a conspiratorial grin on his face. David's text followed. "They're working with a shady notary contact to fake the transfer of your business." I'm digging deeper. I zoomed in on the image, the papers too blurry to read, but I knew they weren't innocent. This was a calculated plan to strip me of everything, not just my marriage, but my legacy, the shops I'd poured my heart into since I was a young woman in San Diego. The rage wasn't just anger anymore. It was a white-hot need for justice. I stood up, pacing the back room, the hum of the shop's cooler grounding me as I processed the betrayal. Harold, the man who'd stood by me as I built this business, who'd carried boxes of flowers when we were starting out, was now conspiring with Vanessa to tear it all down. And selling my rose formula to Petals and Company, my biggest competitor, was a low blow meant to bury me for good. I thought of Michael, my son, oblivious to his wife's treachery, and the pain of their betrayal doubled. They weren't just breaking my heart, they were aiming to destroy my entire world. I sat back down, staring at the phone, the audio still looping in my head. Vanessa's cruel laugh, Harold's smug assurance. My fingers tightened around the USB, the weight of their plan sinking in. This wasn't just about catching them in their affair anymore. It was about protecting what was mine, the business I'd fought for, the life I'd earned. I texted David back, my words firm. Keep following them. Get every detail you can. I need it all. His reply was quick. Got it. More soon. I leaned back, the shop's quiet hum mixing with the storm inside me. They thought they could outsmart me, but they didn't know the fight I had left. I wasn't just a betrayed wife. I was Eleanor Thompson, and I'd make sure they paid for every lie. The air in my flower shop felt thick with betrayal. The scent of roses and lilies, now a cruel reminder of the lies Harold and Vanessa were weaving to destroy me. After David's latest bombshell, the audio revealing their plan to steal my $1.2 million flower shop chain and sell my secret rose formula to Petals and Co., my rage burned hotter than ever. At 65, I'd thought I'd seen every kind of hurt, but this was a new beast, a vicious plot to rob me of my life's work. That evening, as I sat across from Harold at our small kitchen table, the dim yellow light casting shadows on his face, he played his part like a seasoned actor. Eleanor, I've got some business papers coming up this week, he said casually, stabbing at his steak. They're tricky, so maybe you should take a look later. I knew he was testing me, trying to drag me into their scheme to sign away my shops. I forced a tired smile, picking at my bread to hide the fire in my chest. Sure, I'll check them out when I've got time, I replied, my voice steady but cold. Inside I was screaming, their voices from the audio looping in my head. Vanessa calling me that old fool, Harold laughing about how clueless I was. He poured himself another glass of wine, his face flushed as he rambled about a tough client, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. When he staggered to bed, leaving his car keys on the counter, I saw my chance. My heart pounded, not with fear anymore, but with a fierce determination to turn their game against them. Late that night, while Harold's snores echoed through the house, I slipped into the garage, my phone's flashlight cutting through the dark. The SUV smelled of gasoline, and that same wild rose perfume, a taunting ghost of their betrayal. I opened the glove compartment, and there it was, the half-used massage oil bottle, cap still sticky. It wasn't just evidence of their affair. It was a symbol of their arrogance, thinking they could hide this from me. I grabbed it, my hands steady now, and headed to the kitchen. I scrubbed my hands with lemon soap, as if I could wash away the filth of their deceit, but my focus was razor sharp. I rummaged through the tool drawer, pulling out a tube of clear industrial superglue, the kind I'd used to fix broken vases at the shop. It was perfect, identical in look and texture to their massage oil. I unscrewed the oil bottle's cap, poured out the contents, and carefully filled it with the glue, drop by drop, until it was full. I shook it gently, testing the flow, and it came out smooth, indistinguishable from the real thing. A faint smile crossed my lips, But inside, a hurricane of resolve roared. This wasn't just a prank. It was the first strike in a war they didn't know they'd started. I wiped the bottle clean, placed it back in the glove compartment exactly as I'd found it, and adjusted the car's floor mat to cover my tracks. I wasn't done yet. I knew they'd been meeting at the Grand Lux Hotel, so I texted David, my words clipped and urgent. Find out their next hotel booking. I need to know when they're there. He replied within minutes. They've got a room reserved for tomorrow afternoon. Same place. I'll confirm the time. My pulse quickened. I had to act fast. I drove downtown before dawn, my mind racing with the plan. At the Grand Lux, I waited until the morning staff shift, when the lobby was quiet. Using a tip from David, I posed as a guest who'd left something in the room, flashing a fake keycard he'd helped me get. The tired clerk barely looked up, letting me slip into their usual suite. I found another massage oil bottle on the nightstand, swapped it with another glue-filled one I'd prepared, and checked every detail to leave no trace. My hands didn't shake anymore. They moved with the precision of a woman who'd spent decades arranging flowers to perfection. I was back home before Harold woke, the trap set, their betrayal about to backfire in a way they'd never see coming. The rage inside me burned hotter than ever, a wildfire fueled by the audio of Harold and Vanessa plotting to steal my $1.2 million flower shop chain and sell my rose formula to Petals & Co. Their voices, Vanessa's cold sneer calling me that old fool, and Harold's smug assurance, echoed in my head as I sat in my Chicago flower shop, the scent of lilies now sour with their betrayal. At 65, I'd thought I knew heartbreak, but their plan to ruin my life's work was a new kind of evil. I'd already swapped their massage oil for industrial superglue in Harold's SUV and their hotel room at the Grand Lux, setting the trap for their next rendezvous. But I needed more, something to nail them for good. Late that night, my phone buzzed with a new message from David, the private investigator. Got audio from an app I slipped onto Harold's phone. It's big, Mrs. Thompson. Brace yourself. I locked myself in the shop's back room, earbuds in, heart hammering like it might burst. I hit play, and Vanessa's voice came through, sharp and vicious. Once we've got the shops and sold the formula, we stage an accident for her, something slow, like slipping some meds into her coffee. The life insurance payout is $500,000, and with you and me starting fresh with our baby, we'll be set. Harold's voice was calm, almost chilling. Don't worry, I've got it under control. She'll never suspect a thing. The words hit like a sledgehammer. My breath stopped, my hands gripping the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. Not only were they stealing my business, but Vanessa was pregnant with Harold's child, and they were planning to kill me, to poison me slowly for a $500,000 insurance payout. The betrayal wasn't just personal or financial anymore. It was a murder plot, a sick scheme to erase me and start their twisted new family. I played the audio again, each word a fresh wound, but my shock turned to a cold, hard fury. They thought they could outsmart me, end me, and take everything I'd built. But they didn't know Eleanor Thompson, the woman who'd turned a single flower stand into a Chicago empire through sheer will. I saved the file to my USB, labeling it with the date and time, 11:32 p.m., Grand Lux Hotel parking lot. My hands were steady now, driven by a resolve that felt like iron. I wasn't just fighting for my shops or my pride. I was fighting for my life. David's next message came through, a photo of them in the hotel lobby. Vanessa in a sleek beige dress, Harold's hand on her elbow, both looking smug as they checked in. He texted, "They're in the room now. I'll keep monitoring." I paced the back room, the hum of the shop's cooler barely registering as my mind raced. Vanessa, pregnant with Harold's baby, plotting to poison me, their voices so casual about my death. I thought of Michael, my son, clueless about his wife's betrayal and his father's monstrous plan. The pain of their deceit was a knife twisting deeper, but it only sharpened my focus. I'd already rigged their massage oil, but I needed to ensure they'd be caught red-handed. I texted David, my words precise. "Get me their exact schedule for tomorrow's hotel visit. I need to be ready." He replied, "Got a source at the front desk. They're booked for 2 p.m. I'll confirm closer." I sat back down, staring at the USB, now a vault of their crimes, audio, photos, video, all proof of their affair and their murderous scheme. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with a primal need to protect what was mine. Harold and Vanessa thought they could bury me, but they'd underestimated the fight in a 65-year-old woman who'd spent her life building something from nothing. I slipped the USB into my purse, my plan taking shape. Tomorrow, they'd walk into my trap, and I'd make sure their world came crashing down just as they'd planned to do to mine. The glue was just the start. Their downfall would be my victory. My blood ran hot with a fury I'd never known. The audio of Harold and Vanessa's murder plot looping in my head like a nightmare I couldn't shake. At 65, after 45 years of marriage, I thought I'd seen every shade of betrayal. But planning to poison me for a $500,000 insurance payout and to steal my $1.2 million flower shop chain was a darkness I hadn't imagined. Vanessa's cold voice talking about their baby, Harold's calm assurance that I'd never suspect. It all fueled a fire in me that burned away any trace of the heartbroken wife. I'd already swapped their massage oil for industrial superglue in their hotel room at the Grand Lux and Harold's SUV, setting a trap to catch them in their own filth. But after learning they wanted me dead, I needed more than humiliation. I needed their world to collapse. The next morning, I moved with purpose, my hands steady as I prepared the final pieces of my plan. I woke before dawn, the Chicago sky still grey, and slipped into the kitchen to make coffee, the routine grounding me as I plotted. I'd learned from David, my private investigator, that Harold and Vanessa had a room booked at the Grand Lux for 2 p.m. today. I texted him at sunrise, my message sharp. "Confirm their check-in time and get me access to the hotel's service entrance." He replied quickly, "Got it. They're confirmed for 2 p.m., room 312. I'll have a service key ready by noon." I nodded to myself, the plan crystallizing. I wasn't just going to catch them, I was going to make sure everyone saw their shame. Before leaving, I rigged a small device David had given me, a remote-activated smoke emitter he'd used for undercover jobs. It was small enough to hide in a housekeeping cart, set to release thick, harmless smoke when triggered. I'd plant it in their hotel room to mimic a fire, enough to draw attention and bring in the fire department, where my son Michael worked as a chief. The thought of him seeing his father and wife caught in their betrayal twisted my heart, but it was the only way to expose them fully. I drove to the Grand Lux at noon, meeting David in a back alley near the service entrance. He handed me a housekeeping uniform and a keycard, his face serious. "Be quick, Mrs. Thompson. Staff changeover is in 10 minutes, so no one will notice." I slipped into the uniform, my pulse racing but my hands steady, and made my way to room 312. Inside, the room reeked of their arrogance, the bed neatly made, a fresh bottle of massage oil on the nightstand. I swapped it with another glue-filled bottle I'd prepared, double-checking the cap to ensure it looked untouched. Then I tucked the smoke device under the dresser, hidden but ready to go off with a tap on my phone app. I adjusted the curtains to ensure the smoke would billow out the window, catching eyes from the street below. Everything was in place, a perfect trap for their 2 p.m. rendezvous. I left the room, blending back into the bustle of downtown Chicago, and headed to a nearby coffee shop to wait, my phone ready to trigger the device. By 1:30 p.m., David texted, "They just checked in, heading to the room now." My heart pounded, but it wasn't fear. It was the thrill of justice closing in. I pictured them walking into that room, smug and unaware, ready to use that glue thinking it was oil. I sipped my coffee, eyes glued to my phone, waiting for the moment to strike. The thought of their plan to poison me, to take my shops and my life for their twisted future, only sharpened my resolve. I wasn't the fragile old woman they thought I was. I was Eleanor Thompson, who'd built an empire from nothing, and today I'd tear theirs down. The clock hit 2:15, and I knew they were in the room, their betrayal about to be exposed in a way they'd never recover from. I opened the app, my finger hovering over the trigger, ready to unleash the chaos that would end their lies forever. The coffee shop across from the Grand Lux Hotel buzzed with afternoon chatter, but I barely noticed, my eyes locked on my phone, finger poised over the app that would trigger the smoke device in Harold and Vanessa's room. My heart thundered, not with doubt, but with the electric rush of justice closing in. At 65, I'd faced plenty of pain, but learning Harold and Vanessa planned to poison me for a $500,000 insurance payout, steal my $1.2 million flower shop chain, and start a new life with their baby, had turned my rage into something unstoppable. I'd swapped their massage oil for industrial superglue in their hotel room, planted a smoke emitter to draw the fire department, and now, at 2:20 p.m., David's text confirmed they were in room 312, oblivious to the trap I'd set. I took a deep breath and tapped the app, activating the device. Game on. Within minutes, thick black smoke began curling out of the third-floor window, spiraling into the Chicago sky like a signal flare. From my seat, I watched pedestrians stop, pointing up, their voices rising in alarm. Someone yelled about a fire, and a man across the street pulled out his phone, dialing 911. My pulse raced, but I stayed calm, sipping my coffee as the plan unfolded. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, and soon a fire truck screeched to a halt outside the Grand Lux. My son Michael, chief of his crew, leapt out in his gear, face tense as he barked orders. "Get the hoses ready, there could be people inside." My heart twisted, knowing he'd soon face a truth uglier than any fire. Through my earbuds, connected to the app David had rigged to Harold's phone, I heard chaos erupt in the room. Vanessa's voice, shrill and panicked, cut through. "Oh my God! We're stuck, Harold. It's not coming off." Harold growled back, voice strained. "Shut up. I'm trying to move. Just hold still." Their words were laced with desperation, the glue doing its job, binding them to the hotel sheets in their moment of betrayal. I bit my lip, a grim satisfaction rising as I imagined them thrashing, trapped in their own deceit. The smoke device worked perfectly, drawing attention without real danger, and now the firefighters, led by Michael, charged into the hotel. I slipped out of the coffee shop, blending into the growing crowd outside, my phone still feeding me audio. The sound of splintering wood came through as Michael's team broke down the door to room 312. Then a stunned silence, followed by Michael's voice, low and broken. "What the hell is this?" A firefighter behind him muttered in shock, "Jesus Christ!" And another let out a nervous laugh before Michael snapped, "Quiet. Now." I could picture it, my son frozen in the doorway, staring at his father and his wife, naked and glued to the sheets, their faces pale with terror and shame. The audio caught Vanessa's sobs, her voice cracking. "Do something, Harold, please, I can't move." Harold's response was a weak mumble. "Don't let them see us like this," but it was too late. The crowd outside swelled, hotel guests and passers-by craning their necks, whispering and pointing. A woman nearby gasped, "That's Harold Thompson, with his daughter-in-law." "My God, what a disgrace," another voice chimed in. "Poor Eleanor, how could they do this?" Someone was already filming, phones raised high, capturing the firefighters hauling out equipment while the smoke cleared. I'd sent David's audio of their murder plot to the police just before triggering the smoke. And now, as sirens signaled cop cars arriving, I knew their scheme was unraveling. The hotel manager rushed out, shouting about a contained incident, but the damage was done. Vanessa's cries echoed through my earbuds, a pitiful wail as the firefighters wrapped sheets around their stuck bodies, trying to shield them from the growing audience. Michael emerged from the hotel, his face ashen, shoulders slumped. I wanted to run to him, to hold him and say I was sorry for what he'd seen, but I stayed in the crowd, letting the chaos play out. The video of Harold and Vanessa, tangled and humiliated, was already spreading online, phones buzzing with notifications. Their affair, their baby, their plan to kill me. It was all exposed now, a public spectacle they couldn't escape. I slipped my phone into my purse, the weight of their downfall settling over me like a dark, satisfying victory. They'd wanted me dead, but I'd turned their own game against them, and now the whole world knew. The chaos outside the Grand Lux Hotel faded as I followed the ambulance to the hospital, my heart still racing from the scene I'd orchestrated. Harold and Vanessa, glued to the sheets in their hotel room, exposed to the world by my son Michael's fire crew, their affair and murder plot laid bare for all of Chicago to see. The video of their humiliation was already blowing up online, shared across social media with whispers of disgust and disbelief. At 65, I'd turned their betrayal into a spectacle. But the satisfaction was bittersweet, knowing Michael had to witness his father and wife's shame. As I walked into the hospital, blending into the sterile bustle of the emergency wing, I clutched my purse, where 2 tubes of thick mustard were hidden, my final jab at their arrogance. The fire was out, but I wasn't done burning them. Inside, the air smelled of antiseptic and tension. I kept my face composed, playing the concerned wife who'd just heard about a hotel incident. A doctor approached, his brow sweaty, voice low. "Mrs. Thompson, we separated them. No serious injuries, just some skin irritation. They'll need ointment for a few days." I nodded, feigning relief, my fingers brushing the mustard tubes in my purse. "Thank you, doctor," I said softly, my voice trembling just enough to sell the act. He led me to the nurse's station, where a young nurse handed me 2 tubes of medicated ointment, her eyes full of pity. "I'm so sorry you're going through this, Ma'am," she said, turning away to answer a call. The moment her back was turned, I swapped the ointment for the mustard, my hands moving fast and sure, like I'd rehearsed it 1,000 times in my head. I walked into their room, the fluorescent lights casting a harsh glow on Harold and Vanessa. She sat on the bed, hair a tangled mess, eyes red and puffy, refusing to meet my gaze. Harold looked pale, his face drawn, mumbling as I entered. "Eleanor, I can explain." I cut him off with a cold stare, placing the mustard tubes on the table between their beds. "Just get better," I said, my voice flat, turning to leave. Moments later, as I stood in the hallway, a piercing scream tore through the air. Vanessa clutched her arm, sobbing hysterically. "It burns. Oh God, it's burning my skin." Harold writhed, cursing under his breath. "What is this stuff? It's killing me." The hallway erupted in chaos, nurses rushing in, patients and visitors craning their necks to see. A doctor barked orders, demanding a neutralizing wash, but the damage was done. Their pain was my doing, and I felt a dark, delicious satisfaction knowing they were suffering for their sins. The scandal was unstoppable now. A woman in the hallway whispered to her friend, "That's them, the ones from the hotel video, father-in-law and daughter-in-law. What a mess." Another voice added, "They deserve every bit of it." I'd sent the audio of their murder plot to the police right after triggering the smoke device, and now officers arrived, their radios crackling as they headed to the room. I'd also called Michael, telling him to grab the envelope of evidence I'd hidden in my dresser, photos, videos, and the damning audio of their plan to poison me and steal my $1.2 million flower shops. He walked in, face pale, clutching the envelope, his eyes hollow with betrayal. I handed him 2 sets of divorce papers I'd prepared, one for me and Harold, one for him and Vanessa. "Take these to them," I said, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. Michael nodded, stepping into the room. I stayed outside, listening as he dropped the papers on the table. "Sign these and get out of our lives," he said, his voice raw but firm. Vanessa's sobs grew louder, her voice breaking. "Michael, please. It was a mistake. Forgive me." Harold tried to speak, his tone desperate. "Eleanor doesn't understand, son. Let me explain." But Michael walked out, his boots heavy on the tile, leaving their pleas unanswered. I watched him lean against the wall, head in his hands, and my heart broke for him. But the sight of their downfall filled me with a grim triumph. They'd wanted me dead, my shops gone, my son broken. Now they were the ones ruined, their names trashed across Chicago, their plans in ashes. I slipped the mustard tubes back into my purse, my trap complete, their punishment sealed. The hospital hallway's antiseptic smell clung to me as I stood outside Harold and Vanessa's room, the echoes of their screams from the mustard-soaked ointment still ringing in my ears. At 65, I'd turned their betrayal into a public spectacle, their affair and murderous plot to steal my $1.2 million flower shop chain and poison me for a $500,000 insurance payout now exposed to all of Chicago. The video of them, glued to the hotel sheets and hauled out by Michael's fire crew, was viral, their shame plastered across social media. But the victory tasted bitter, heavy with the cost to my son Michael, who'd seen his father and wife's treachery firsthand. I watched him now, leaning against the wall, head bowed, his firefighters' strength drained by the weight of their deceit. My heart ached for him, the boy I'd raised, now broken by the 2 people he loved most. I walked over, placing a hand on his shoulder, feeling the tension in his frame. He didn't look up, just whispered, "Mom, I can't believe this." His voice cracked, raw with pain. I wanted to tell him it would be okay, that we'd get through this, but the words felt hollow. Instead, I squeezed his shoulder, sharing his grief in silence. We left the hospital together, the divorce papers signed and left behind with Harold and Vanessa, their pleas for forgiveness ignored. Back at our suburban Chicago home, the quiet was deafening, the familiar spaces tainted by memories of Harold's lies. Michael sat at the kitchen table, staring at his hands while I made coffee, the routine a small anchor in the storm. He looked up, eyes red. "I'm staying here, Mum. I can't go back to our place, not after this." I nodded, my throat tight. "Stay as long as you need," I said softly, pouring him a mug. The house felt foreign now, a place where trust had been shattered, but having Michael here grounded me. We didn't talk much that night, the pain too fresh, too raw. I lay awake, replaying the hospital scene, the satisfaction of their humiliation of warring with the sorrow of our broken family. Harold and Vanessa had wanted me dead, my shops gone, my son's life ruined, but I'd stopped them. Still, the cost was heavy, a family torn apart, a son carrying wounds that might never heal. The next morning, I went to my flower shop, the familiar scent of roses and lilies offering no comfort. Michael came with me, insisting on helping with deliveries, his firefighter's hands now arranging bouquets with care. He was quieter than usual, his usual easy smile gone, replaced by a distant look that broke my heart. I watched him load boxes, his movements mechanical, and felt a pang of guilt for the pain my plan had caused him. But I'd had no choice. Letting Harold and Vanessa get away with their scheme wasn't an option. I approached him as he sorted invoices, my voice gentle. "You don't have to do this, Michael. Take some time." He shook his head, his jaw tight. "I need to keep busy, Mum. It's the only way I can deal with this right now." I nodded, understanding the need to move, to work through the hurt. We spent the day together in the shop, filling orders for a big hotel client, the routine a fragile bridge to normalcy. Neighbors stopped by, their voices warm but cautious, offering support without mentioning the scandal directly. Mrs. Larson, a regular, squeezed my hand. "You're strong, Eleanor. This shop is proof of that." I managed a smile, but inside I felt like a vase cracked but still holding together. By evening, we sat at the kitchen table, eating a simple meal of pasta and salad, the silence between us heavy but not empty. Michael looked at me, his eyes softer now. "We'll be okay, Mum. We've got each other." His words were a balm, easing the ache in my chest. I reached across, touching his hand. "We will," I said, my voice steady with a resolve I was starting to feel again. Harold and Vanessa had taken so much, but they hadn't taken us. As I cleared the plates, I felt the first stirrings of healing, a faint hope that we could rebuild, piece by painful piece, from the ashes of their betrayal. The days after the hospital confrontation blurred into a quiet ache, the sting of Harold and Vanessa's betrayal still raw in our Chicago home. Their screams from the mustard-soaked ointment and the public humiliation of being unglued from hotel sheets by Michael's fire crew lingered in my mind, a dark satisfaction tempered by the pain I saw in my son's eyes. At 65, I'd dismantled their plot to steal my $1.2 million flower shop chain and poison me for a $500,000 insurance payout. Their affair and twisted plan for a new family with their baby, now a citywide scandal. But the victory felt heavy, weighed down by the wreckage of our family. Michael stayed with me, his presence a lifeline as we navigated the fallout, but his silence spoke of wounds that cut deep. Each morning, we headed to my flower shop together, the routine of arranging roses and lilies, a fragile thread tying us to normalcy. Michael threw himself into work, handling deliveries and invoices with a focus that masked his grief. His once easy laugh was gone, replaced by a distant look that made my heart clench. I watched him sort bouquets, his firefighter's hands careful but mechanical, and felt a pang of guilt for the truth he'd had to face. Yet I knew I'd done what was necessary to protect us both. The shop was busier than ever, orders pouring in from hotels and local businesses, a sign that my chain's reputation held strong despite the gossip. Neighbors like Mrs. Larson stopped by, their words kind but careful. "You're a rock, Eleanor," she said, picking up a bouquet. "This place shows what you're made of." I nodded, managing a smile, but inside, I was still piecing myself together. The pain of 45 years with Harold, now reduced to lies, and Vanessa's betrayal as a daughter I'd loved, lingered like a bruise. One afternoon I found Michael staring out the shop's window, his face etched with exhaustion. "I need to do something, Mum," he said, his voice low. "I can't just keep reliving it." I touched his arm, my voice gentle. "Let's join that community group Mrs. Larson mentioned. It's for folks going through tough times. Maybe it'll help us both." We started attending the support group at the community center, a small circle of people sharing stories of loss and rebuilding. Sitting among them, listening to tales of broken marriages and second chances, I felt a flicker of hope. Michael spoke little at first, but over time he opened up, sharing bits of his pain, his voice steady but raw. I shared too, talking about the shops, my pride in building them, and the betrayal that nearly took it all. The group listened, their nods and quiet encouragement a balm to my soul. One woman, Clara, squeezed my hand after a meeting. "You're stronger than you know, Eleanor. You didn't just survive, you fought back." Back at home, our dinners grew less silent. We'd sit at the kitchen table, eating simple meals of grilled chicken and greens, and Michael started talking about his firefighting work again. "We had a tough call yesterday, Mum," he said one night, a spark of his old self in his eyes. "Warehouse fire, but we got it under control." I listened, pride swelling despite the ache. "That's my boy," I said, smiling. "You're saving lives out there." He nodded, a faint smile breaking through. "I'm trying, Mum." The shop kept thriving, a big order from the Grand Hotel boosting our numbers. Michael took on more, calling clients and managing stock, his focus giving me space to breathe. I started taking walks with Mrs. Larson in the evenings, her chatter about neighborhood news a welcome distraction. The scandal was still a topic, but it was fading, replaced by admiration for how I'd kept my business strong. I felt the weight lifting, bit by bit, as I leaned into the routine of work and the support of those around me. Michael and I were healing, not whole yet, but finding our way. The pain of Harold and Vanessa's betrayal would always linger, but it no longer defined us. We had the shop, each other, and a quiet strength growing stronger every day. Weeks after the hospital showdown, my Chicago flower shop hummed with life, the bell above the door chiming constantly as customers flowed in and out. At 65, I'd turned Harold and Vanessa's betrayal into their undoing. Their plot to steal my $1.2 million flower shop chain and poison me for a $500,000 insurance payout. Now a fading scandal, replaced by the community's support for me and Michael. The viral video of them glued to hotel sheets, exposed by Michael's fire crew, had cost them everything. Their reputations shredded, their freedom gone after police arrested them for the murder scheme. But for Michael and me, the pain lingered, a wound we were learning to heal together, finding strength in the ashes of our broken family. Each morning, Michael and I opened the shop side by side, arranging roses and lilies, filling orders for hotels and weddings. He'd taken on managing client calls, his voice steadier now, though the light in his eyes wasn't fully back. I watched him pack bouquets, his firefighter's hands gentle with the petals, and felt a quiet pride. The shop was thriving, our biggest client, the Grand Hotel, doubling their order for weekly arrangements. Neighbors like Mrs. Larson became regulars, their words warm. "Eleanor, you're an inspiration," she said, clutching a bouquet of lilies. "You kept this place going through hell." I smiled, my heart lighter, but the scars of Harold and Vanessa's betrayal still tugged at me. One evening, as we closed the shop, Michael sat me down, his face serious but softer than before. "Mum, I got a letter from Dad," he said, pulling a folded paper from his pocket. "He's in jail, says he's sorry, wants to talk." I looked at him, my heart tightening. Vanessa sent one too, begging forgiveness. "I don't know if I can, but I'm tired of hating them." His words hit me hard, stirring a mix of pain and hope. I'd spent weeks fueled by rage, but now, seeing Michael's struggle, I felt something shift. I took his hand, my voice calm. "We don't have to forgive them yet, but we can let go of the hate. It's poisoning us more than them." That moment marked a turning point. I started attending a church group on Sundays, sitting in the glow of stained glass windows, praying not for Harold or Vanessa, but for peace, for Michael, for myself. The group's quiet support helped me see that justice wasn't just their downfall, but our freedom to move forward. Michael joined me sometimes, his presence a comfort as we rebuilt our bond. One night at dinner, over a simple meal of roast chicken and potatoes, he smiled, a real one, and said, "Mum, let's plant a new rose garden out back, like the one you had when I was a kid." I laughed, the sound surprising me. "Deal, but you're digging the holes." The shop grew stronger, new clients calling from across Chicago, my rose formula safe, and my chain now valued higher than ever. I hired 2 new staff, easing the load, and joined a local women's gardening club, sharing tips and stories with women my age. Clara from the support group became a friend, her laughter a reminder that life could still be bright. Harold and Vanessa faced their trials, their pleas for forgiveness unanswered for now, but I felt a flicker of hope that one day we might find a way to heal, not for them, but for us. Justice had been served, their plans crushed, but our victory was in living again, in the shop's success, in Michael's slow smiles, in the strength we'd found together. As I stood behind the counter, arranging a bouquet for a wedding, I looked out at the bustling street, the world moving on. I'd lost a husband, a daughter-in-law, but I'd kept my son, my shops, and myself. The pain would always be there, but so would our resilience, a garden growing stronger with every season. We'd won, not just against them, but for a future built on truth and hope. Did this story hit you hard? Hit that like button if you felt my fight, and subscribe for more real-life tales of triumph. Drop a comment. Tell me where you're listening from, and if you've ever had to rebuild after betrayal. I'd love to hear your stories, your strength. Your support keeps these stories coming, so thank you for being here. Check out the next 2 stories on my channel, and I'll see you in the comments with love and respect.